Okay, I'm back now. I have pinned down those three major pieces. I did decide to keep the facing over here because I did play with what else could fit in here, and there really isn't anything that is narrow enough to use this part up. So I'm going to be saving this chunk right in here today to do my testing with. I also wanted to point out that you want to make sure that you have an instrument that you measure to the selvage. So, and not try to find a straight of grain on the folded edge. In our heads, that should be another place you could choose it to measure to, but it's not always accurate. So it's best that you always do the rule to the selvage. Now, you could have a tape measure, but the longer the distance gets, it becomes harder to know and see if you're holding down something straight, that you're not going off of being, perpendicular to your arrow. So I have a metal yardstick. I mean, any old yardstick would work. And that's what I like to do because I still need to make sure and eye it that I am square to this. Because if I do this, even just a little bit off, my number, it's going to be off down here. And even if I go this way, right? So you really want to have something that is wide enough so that you can clearly see that it is square on both sides. Okay. So I've measured all these three pieces and ready to begin the cutting. Now, I want to reiterate that I checked. I know I have enough fabric. So I am going to cut these three pieces out now. Don't take the pins out of it because we still have to do marking. And I do want to show you a different way of marking on knits. So you have that choice. I also want you to know that this particular dart gets cut a certain way. So I'm going to cut that out in this video so that you know how the dart should be done. Okay, so let's start with just using the scissors. Make sure that's in here. Yep, you are here. Okay. All right, so it is really important that you keep your bent handle scissor as flat to the surface as you can while you're cutting. And it is important to take as long of bites as you can. There's one of my little notches, so cutting him out. Back onto here. Because this knit is wanting to relax. That's why you wanted it to relax. That's why pinning can start to distort it and pull it ever so slightly. And weights definitely help with that not happening so much. It reminds you as well to not lift up the fabric because it's holding it down. Okay, so now this is our pointed edge. And again, I do like to take bites of fabric. So now from this point, I am going to just go right in here. And I'm going to come right up here because that is my dash line there that I'm going to cut on. So, but here's my end of my pocket. So I'm just going to take this and cut like this for right now. Okay. So that was also an experiment to show you that, I really lifted that up, right? When I cut, I want you to see something. See the difference? There is, you're not close enough to see the difference. I'm picking it up and the underneath one is shorter than the top one. It is like about a 1/16 of an inch, almost an eighth of an inch. It's because I pulled on this when I picked it up. The top piece when I was cutting was extended and had some stretching to it when I was doing this and just, chomping away, right? And it doesn't stretch the bottom one the same way. So therefore, it's smaller, which is one of the reasons why using your scissor to cut knits, you have to be very aware of what you're dealing with and keeping it nice and flat as you can. Let those weights help you out. Okay, so I am going to move this piece. I'm not going to pick it up and roll it up yet. I'm just going to set him aside over here for a moment while we get to the others. I'm not going to go put him in anything. I'm letting him rest, just like he is over there. Okay. Now, you saw me use the scissors. Now I want to use my rotary blade, right? And I'm going to use the small one to begin with to show you. This is the one I really, really like usually to work with because I can hold it and get into smaller places. It just feels more control than my bigger blade. Does it go a little bit slower? Of course, because it's not as big of a surface. But it's still really my ideal. And so now when I use the blade to cut, I don't have to pick up anything. And it has cut all the way through. The one thing that with knits, just like you saw when I pulled it away over here, there was a little bit hanging on. In a roller blade, even if you have a new sharp one in the blade, it can leave behind, especially on the second level, little fibers that are not completely cut away. So you want to watch that and make sure that everything is loose before you pick it up, because if you don't, you're going to distort it and maybe get a big notch or a run in your knit because you're pulling on it on a little fiber that's still connected. Okay, so let me just do a little more with my blade here. Let's start down here. It's starting to roll in on itself, so we're just going to take this and lay it out flat so I can get started here. Now I'm on my dotted line there. Let's get that up a little closer. All right, here's what I was talking about. See those little pieces? I always have my scissors, or my snips, actually is what I usually have around when I'm doing the blade on the on a knit. You can come back, but you have to make sure that you're on the same little edge, or it will distort. So they both have their advantages and disadvantages, whether you're going to use a scissor or if you're going to roll or cut it. If it was one layer rather, instead of folding on itself, both of these do work better than having it on top of each other because of that tendency to have something actually pull one way or the other, and you get either a run or you get a shorter piece underneath. Okay, so I'm going to get this cut out in major pieces, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I want you to cut out the dart. So I'll be gone just for a minute, and I'll come right back. Okay, so I'm back. I've cut my pocket, as I said before. I've cut the facing out. It's laying over here. Not folded up or anything because it needs its marking yet. So he's just laying over there. And I've gone around the sleeve, leaving this portion how I want you to show you how I should get it cut out. Okay. So if you look at it, I'm going to be cutting on this dotted line. And I do suggest that you use some kind of a marker here prior to laying it on your fabric. This one is not, I'm picking it up so I don't get anything on my fabric of marker, right? But you would figure out what is your line. So I just want to do a little bit of highlighting so you see what line I'm talking about there. This particular dart, it's a little bit different in that, do you see how it's lower here and higher there? And that's just what it does to actually make it have a little curve over to your shoulder. So when you're cutting though, technically you're supposed to come along here and cut like that. I never do that on my knits, especially something that's a little bit more delicate like our French terry where the loops are there and you just don't know what's going to get caught. So I always have the students, when they're at this point, you can see that I'm right there. And then I started already to cut it there so that I could finish it without reaching across and blocking your view while you watch me do it. So we're just going to cut above it. There is my actual cutting line, but we're going to cut above it for right now. We're not going to cut that out at this point. I'll show you how we'll treat that later when we actually do marking. All right? So again, I'm just going to come in here. Got my larger blade. Actually, I think my scissors will do it quicker in this particular angle that I have to do it on. So I'm just going to cut across. And then that is waiting for me to mark what we're really going to do with it and all these circles and etc. once we have everything cut out and we do our marking. Okay, so now in my process, I am going to gently move these things over to another space, probably on my ironing board table, and let them lay flat. I'm still not going to fold anything. And then I'm just going to reposition my knit, another chunk of my knit down, and continue on. So when I have something new to add to that, because there is a couple of things I want to show you once we get to cutting the backs, I will have another little video under this cutting module. All right, see you in a bit.